The night Nighthallow fell, Seraphine Valor learned how fast a kingdom could die. One moment, she was standing inside the temple, the air humming softly with the old magic. The next, the sky exploded in flames. A shockwave ripped through the courtyard, throwing her to the ground. Screams followed, short, sharp, and horrifying. The kind of screams that told you no one was coming back from them. Seraphine staggered to her feet, choking on smoke. "Mother!" she shouted, stumbling through the ruined hallway. No answer. Only the crackle of fire devouring everything. She sprinted toward the inner chambers, just in time to see the ceiling collapse in a burst of embers. Through the haze, she saw her mother pinned beneath a burning beam, reaching toward Seraphine with trembling fingers. "Run!" her mother gasped. "They're coming for you! For your blood!" "What are you talking about? I'm not leaving you!" Her mother grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "Seraphine, listen. You are the last of our line. If they find you, Nighthallow truly dies tonight." A howl tore through the valley, deep, alpha deep, the kind that froze bone. Her mother's eyes widened. "He's here." "Who?" A second howl followed, closer, heavier, vibrating through stone. There was no time. "Go!" her mother screamed. Seraphine ran, not because she was brave, but because survival forced her legs to move. She burst out of the temple just as flames swallowed the entrance. The air outside wasn't safer. Wolves rushed through the village, torches swinging, armor clattering, men shouting orders she couldn't make sense of. She bolted for the forest. Branches whipped her face. Thorns tore at her skin. Cold air stabbed her lungs. She didn't stop. She didn't dare. But the wolves were fast. Their boots thundered behind her, their growls echoing through the trees. Then, suddenly, all sound stopped. Too suddenly. Seraphine froze. The forest went unnaturally quiet. A faint crunch of leaves came from behind her. Slow, certain. She turned, and her breath died in her throat. A shadow towered between the trees, taller than any soldier she'd seen. He stepped forward, broad shoulders, bare chest streaked with ash, war paint across sharp cheekbones. His hair was dark and wild, his presence so powerful the air felt heavier around him. But his eyes were molten gold, glowing through the dark. She had seen drawings of those eyes. Every child of Nighthallow had. The Alpha King of Ironfang, Kael Dravenwolf, her enemy. Her kingdom's destroyer. The man fate claimed she was destined to kill. But right now, with her leg bleeding and her lungs burning, all she could do was stumble backward. Kael didn't rush, didn't growl, didn't attack. He looked at her, as though he hadn't expected to find a girl standing in the ashes of a fallen kingdom. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, dark, dangerous. "No more running, little one." She tried to flee anyway, but her injured leg buckled. He caught her before she hit the ground, his hand curling possessively around her waist. Heat radiated off him, stronger than the fires she had escaped. "Let go," she whispered, pushing weakly at his chest. He tilted his head, studying her. "You're shaking." "Because you murdered my people." Something flickered in his expression. Not guilt, something sharper. "Tell me your name." She swallowed hard. She couldn't give him her real one. Not when hunters were looking for the last Nighthallow. "Lyra," she lied. Kael's gaze deepened. "Lyra," he repeated slowly, like he was claiming the sound. Before she could react, he lifted her into his arms, effortlessly, as though she weighed nothing. "What are you doing? Put me down." "No?" His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. It was a command drenched in authority. "You can't walk," he said calmly, "and the forest is full of wolves who aren't as patient as I am." "I don't need your help." He gave her a small, dark smile. "Then consider it a mercy or a warning." He glanced at her bleeding leg. "You won't survive the night without me." She hated that he was right. As he carried her deeper into the woods, Seraphine clutched the pendant hidden under her torn dress, her mother's final gift. Kael Dravenwolf had no idea who he was holding. No idea she was the last heir of Nighthallow. No idea she was his enemy. And no idea that fate, not mercy, had placed her in his arms. Because someday soon, she would be the one to end him, or lose her heart trying. Kael carried Seraphine through the forest as if she were something valuable or dangerous. His grip was strong but controlled, one arm under her legs, the other around her back, pressing her against his warm chest. She hated every second, not because he was touching her, but because her body reacted before her brain could stop it. His heat seeped into her skin. His scent, pine, smoke, raw power, wrapped around her like a spell. Every breath she took dragged him deeper into her lungs. She tried to twist away, tried to create distance. It was useless. Kael only tightened his hold with a low growl vibrating through his chest. "Stop fighting," he murmured. "You'll reopen your wound." His voice was a slow slide of heat down her spine. She clenched her jaw and looked away, refusing to meet his eyes. "Where are you taking me?" she demanded. He didn't hesitate. "To Ironhold." Her heart jolted. His fortress, his kingdom, his home. "I'm not your prisoner," she snapped. Kael glanced down at her, something dark flickering in his golden gaze. "Little one," he said softly, "if I wanted a prisoner, I would have tied your hands and thrown you over my shoulder." The way he said it sent a shiver down her body. He felt it. His lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "Interesting." She glared at him. "Don't presume I'm afraid of you." "Oh, you are," he said. "I can smell it." Her breath caught. She hated wolves. She hated their ability to sense fear, lies, desire. Desire. No. She pushed that thought away. Kael shifted her slightly in his arms, holding her closer as he stepped over a fallen tree. The movement pressed her chest against his, her face against his neck, her fingers accidentally catching the edge of his jaw. A low rumble escaped him, not a growl. Something deeper, almost pleased. "Careful," he whispered, voice hot against her ear. "If you keep touching me like that, I might forget I'm supposed to be gentle." She snatched her hand away. "Let me down." "I said no. I'd rather die than go with you." He stopped walking, dead still. The forest held its breath. Slowly, very slowly, Kael lowered his head until his forehead nearly brushed hers. His warm breath spilled across her lips. "Don't say that again," he whispered, voice quiet but edged with steel. "Not while you're in my arms." His tone wasn't angry. It was something far more dangerous. Possessive. Before she could respond, he resumed walking, faster this time, as though her words had ignited something inside him. Minutes later, the forest thinned, opening into a cliff overlooking the valley. From here, she could see everything, her kingdom smoldering in the distance, smoke rising into the sky like a final prayer. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred. Kael paused, following her gaze. Something shifted in his expression. Not guilt, not pity, something quieter, something almost human. He angled her toward his chest, shielding her eyes with his hand. "Don't look," he murmured. She shoved his hand away. "It was my home," she whispered, voice cracking. "I won't pretend it didn't exist." Kael studied her for a long moment. "You're stronger than you look." She glared at him. "And you're more arrogant than I imagined." His lips twitched. "A fair trade." He carried her another 20 minutes until the forest opened into a wide clearing, and Iron Fang soldiers emerged from the smoke, snapping to attention the moment they saw him. "Alpha!" they said in unison. Kael didn't slow. A few of them stared at her, confused, tense, curious. One wolf, armor smeared with mud and soot, stepped forward. "Alpha, we found no survivors in Night Hallow except—" His eyes landed on Seraphine. Kael's voice turned sharp, lethal. "Finish that sentence, Roven. I dare you." Roven swallowed hard and bowed his head. "Forgive me." Kael's grip on Seraphine tightened possessively. "She is under my protection," he said. "My word is final." The soldiers stepped back immediately. Seraphine's pulse spiked. What was he doing? Why was he defending her? Kael didn't give her time to think. He carried her deeper into the ranks until the fortress appeared in the distance, a towering black structure carved into the mountainside, torches blazing along the walls. Ironhold. It looked like something built for war, and something built to trap her forever. The moment they entered the gates, whispers followed them. "Who is she? Why is he carrying her? She's hurt. Did she attack him? No one touches the Alpha." "But he's touching her. Look, closer than anyone else has." Kael ignored them all. He carried her straight into the fortress, across stone corridors, past banners bearing the sigil of the Dravenwolf line, a snarling wolf crowned with iron. Finally, he pushed open a heavy iron door. It swung inward, revealing a vast room lit only by a fire pit in the center. Furs covered the floor. A massive bed stood against the far wall, carved from dark wood. Seraphine stiffened. "This is your room," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't bother setting her on a chair or couch. He placed her directly on his bed, slow, careful, as if she were breakable. She scrambled backward instantly. "I'm not staying here." Kael stood at the edge of the bed, arms crossed over his broad chest. "You are." "No." "Yes." Their eyes locked. Neither looked away. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, until his knees brushed the mattress. She sucked in a breath. His golden gaze flicked to her mouth, then her eyes, then back to her mouth. "Don't run," he murmured. "Not from me." "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you even care?" Kael leaned down, placing one hand on the headboard beside her. His face hovered inches above hers, breath warm, scent intoxicating. "Because," he said softly, "I don't know what you are yet, but I know you're mine." Her heart slammed so hard she couldn't breathe. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes, then added in a low, dangerous whisper, "And I don't intend to let go." The fire crackled softly in Kael's chamber, throwing warm light across the stone walls and outlining his silhouette like a creature carved from shadow. Seraphine's pulse hammered as he stood at the foot of the bed, watching her with that same intense, unreadable expression that somehow made her feel exposed, despite the heavy furs covering her legs. His presence charged the air. It felt like the moment before lightning strikes. She turned her face away, trying to hide how hard she was breathing. Kael noticed anyway. "You're hurt," he said quietly. "Let me see." "No." He didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply looked at her, long enough, steady enough, that she felt heat crawl up her neck despite herself. Finally, he stepped forward. Seraphine jerked back. "Don't come closer." Kael froze mid-step, not because he obeyed, but because he found her defiance interesting. "Why do you fear me?" he asked softly. "I don't fear you." His lips curved, slow and sinful. "Little one, you tremble every time I breathe your way." She clenched the blanket so tightly she thought it might tear. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Kael's eyes darkened. He walked to the side of the bed and leaned down slightly, enough that she could see the clean cut of muscle along his shoulders, the faint scars crossing his chest, the way firelight danced in his golden eyes. "You ran from me," he murmured, "but fate put you in my arms. I don't believe in coincidences." "I don't believe in fate," she whispered. He brushed a knuckle along her jaw, barely touching, but the soft graze made every nerve in her body spark. "That's because fate has never chased you this hard," he said. Her breath caught. She pushed his hand away, but her fingers trembled. Kael didn't get angry. He didn't growl. He didn't force another touch. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, breathing slower, deeper, as though he was wrestling some internal beast. "Lyra," he said, and hearing him speak the false name made guilt twist in her chest. "I won't hurt you. I meant that." "Then let me go," she said. He looked up sharply. "No. You don't own me." A low sound escaped him. Not quite a growl, not quite a laugh. Something darker. Something that made her stomach twist. He turned toward her fully. "Look at me. I don't want to." "Seraphine." The way he said her real name, so quietly, so naturally, made her snap her gaze up to him in shock. He shouldn't know it. She never told him. His lips curved. Names slip when people talk in their sleep. Her cheeks burned with humiliation and fear. She had whispered her real name in a dream? "What else did I say?" she breathed. "Just your name." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "And something about running from destiny." Her heart pounded so hard she thought he could hear it. Kael watched her silently for a moment, studying her like she was a puzzle he was finally fitting together. Then he stood. She relaxed. Too soon. Kael reached for the clasps on his shoulder harness and slid the leather off his body, letting it drop to the floor. Then he pulled off the torn fabric wrapped around his forearm, revealing fresh cuts from battle. Seraphine turned her face away, heat rushing into her cheeks. "Well, what are you doing?" she whispered. "Cleaning up." He walked toward the water basin and dipped a cloth. "Unless you'd prefer I bleed all over the bed." Her head snapped toward him. "Of course not." He smirked, then stopped staring like you don't know what a bare chest looks like. She glared. The worst part? He wasn't wrong. He dragged the cloth across his shoulder, jaw clenched, as water trickled down his chest. Seraphine swallowed. He didn't look at her, but he felt her gaze. "Do you want to help?" he asked. The question hit her like a punch. "No!" He chuckled, dark, deep, and entirely too confident. "Then come here." "What? Why?" "I need to check your leg." She tried to pull her injured leg back under the furs. "I'm fine." "You're not," he said. "And if you don't let me help you, infection will do what my enemies couldn't." Seraphine hesitated. She knew he was right. She hated that he was right. Kael approached slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't. He knelt in front of her, his large hands gentle as he lifted her ankle. She sucked in a shaky breath. A dark glint flashed through his eyes. "You feel everything too deeply," he murmured, "and you try so hard to hide it." She said nothing. He rolled the edge of her torn dress up just enough to see the wound. She bit her lip, too hard. When his fingers brushed her bare skin, he felt that too. His voice lowered. "Little one," he warned softly. "Don't do that." "Do what?" she whispered. "Don't look at me like you're scared to want something." Her heart tripped over itself. Kael's fingers traced the length of her calf, not teasingly, but as though memorizing every detail. His touch was warm, slow, careful, too careful. Seraphine couldn't breathe. "Your body goes fragile when you're frightened," he whispered, gently applying ointment. "But it goes soft when you're near me. Do you know what that means?" She shook her head, tiny, helpless. "It means you're lying," Kael said. "Not just about your name." She froze. "Your scent shifts when you lie," he continued. "And you lied the second you said Lyra." Her blood ran cold. He looked up at her, golden eyes unreadable. "You won't tell me your real name," he said softly. "But I'll wait. I'm patient when the right thing is worth waiting for." Her stomach flipped. "And what?" she managed to whisper. "Makes you think I'm worth anything to you?" Kael leaned in. Close. Too close. Dangerously close. His breath swept across her lips, her pulse hammered out of rhythm. "Because the moment I saw you," he murmured, "my wolf went still." Seraphine's entire body tensed. Wolves never went still. Not unless... No, it couldn't be. Kael's fingers slid up her thigh, slow, deliberate, before he pulled back and stood. "We're done here," he said, though his voice was far from calm. "Rest." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Seraphine," he said without looking back. "Don't run again. You won't make it far. And I don't want to hurt anyone who tries to chase you." A tremor ran through her. Not because of the threat. Because she believed him. Because he meant it. And because, for the first time in her life, someone was more dangerous for her heart than for her life. Seraphine didn't sleep. Not because she didn't want to, but because her body refused to calm after Kael left the room. His scent lingered in the air, thick and intoxicating. The heat of his touch still burned along her skin. The echo of his voice, "My wolf went still," repeated in her mind like a forbidden confession. Wolves went still only for one reason, a reason she could not allow. She gripped the furs around her, breathing hard. She needed to leave Ironhold. She needed to get away from him before this became something she couldn't escape. A sudden knock shattered her thoughts. Her entire body jolted. But it wasn't Kael. A young woman slipped into the chamber, a servant with dark hair braided neatly down her back. She bowed quickly. "Forgive me," she whispered. "The Alpha asked me to bring you fresh clothes." Seraphine stiffened. "Clothes? For me?" "Yes, my lady." "My lady!" Seraphine's stomach twisted. She wasn't a lady. She was a runaway heir with a kingdom's ashes on her skin. The servant placed a stack of folded clothing onto a nearby chair. Soft wool, dark velvet, clean linen. Much finer than anything she'd worn in Night Hollow. "He also said to tell you," the servant continued carefully, "do not leave before I return." His words, not mine. Seraphine swallowed. Of course he expected her to stay. "Did he say where he went?" she asked. The servant hesitated, which meant yes. "He went to the east wall," she murmured. "There was an incident." "What incident?" Seraphine pressed. The girl's eyes flicked nervously toward the door. "A scout reported a survivor from Night Hollow," she whispered. "Someone saw movement in the ruins." Seraphine's blood went cold. A survivor? Who? Her heart slammed painfully. Her mother? A cousin? A villager? Please, please let it be someone. Was the survivor found? She forced out. The servant shook her head. No, my lady, but the Alpha went to investigate himself. Seraphine's chest constricted. Kael. In the ruins of the kingdom she thought he destroyed. Searching for someone who could expose her, she needed to breathe. The servant bowed again and hurried out. The moment she was gone, Seraphine threw the covers aside and stood, her leg screaming in protest, but she didn't care. Pain didn't matter. If someone survived, if someone saw her alive, her entire identity could unravel. She grabbed one of the dark cloaks Kael had left on the chair and limped toward the balcony doors. She had to go. She had to find the survivor before Kael did. But as she reached the railing, she heard 2 guards speaking below. Alpha almost killed Roven today. For what? For mentioning the girl. The one he brought back. You mean the one he carried through the gates like she was a treasure? Don't joke. I saw his eyes. If anyone touches her, dead. No hesitation. Seraphine's breath tangled in her throat. Treasure. Protected. Possessed. No. This was dangerous. Too dangerous. She needed distance, not more of him. She turned to slip back inside. The balcony door slammed shut. Cold fingers of fear crawled up her spine. She hadn't closed it. She slowly looked over her shoulder and froze. Kael was standing inside the room. Fresh blood smeared across his knuckles. His jaw clenched hard enough to crack. His eyes, those molten, golden eyes, glowed brighter than fire. Every inch of him radiated barely contained violence. Not toward her, but because of something he'd just done. Going somewhere? He asked quietly. The air tightened. Seraphine's heartbeat tripped. I heard something about a survivor, she said carefully. Kael didn't move, didn't blink. He looked like every nerve in his body was coiled, ready to snap. There's nothing left in those ruins, he said. No one. Nothing. But the scout? The scout was mistaken, Kael growled. She flinched, his face softened instantly. Not at you, he murmured. Never at you. Her breath trembled. What happened? She whispered. Kael walked toward her slowly, too slowly, like a predator measuring the distance between them. The closer he came, the harder it became to breathe. When he reached her, he lifted a hand and brushed her cheek with the back of his fingers. She shivered. He noticed. Tell me something, he said quietly. Does your heart race like this because you're afraid of me, or because of me? Seraphine swallowed hard. Who said my heart is racing? Kael leaned his forehead to hers, breath warm on her lips. Your pulse, he murmured. I can hear it. Her knees weakened. I don't want this, she whispered. I don't believe you, he whispered back. His nose brushed hers. Her lips parted involuntarily. Kael's eyes darkened with something sinful. You smell like fire when you lie, he added softly. It's intoxicating. Her stomach flipped. She needed to put distance between them. She needed him to step back. So she grabbed onto the nearest lie she had left. Why did you kill my people? She whispered. Kael went still. Everything in him shut down at once. His jaw tightened. His eyes hardened. Slowly, he straightened. You want the truth? He asked, voice colder than before. Yes. I didn't order the attack on Nighthallow. Seraphine's breath caught. I didn't burn your kingdom, he said. I didn't send those wolves. I didn't command that slaughter. She shook her head. No, that can't be. He stepped closer, pinning her with his stare. I reached Nighthallow after the fires were already burning. Her knees buckled. He caught her waist effortlessly. I found bodies, he murmured. But I found something else, too. Seraphine stared at him, unable to speak. Kael leaned in until his lips nearly brushed the shell of her ear. I found traces of shadow magic, he whispered. The kind Ironfang hasn't used in centuries. Her heart pounded painfully. That attack, Kael said softly, wasn't mine. Seraphine pushed at his chest, not in rejection, but because the world tilted under her feet. He steadied her, hands firm on her waist. Who did it then? She breathed. Kael's voice dropped into something deadly. Someone who wants you, he murmured, and someone who wants me dead. Seraphine's blood turned to ice. Who? She whispered. Kael's lips grazed her ear. Valak, he said. Valak Shadeborn. Her heart nearly stopped. Valak, her kingdom's advisor, her father's most trusted man, vanished the night Nighthallow burned. She staggered back. Kael let her go, but his eyes never left her. I don't know why he wants you, Kael said quietly, but I'll kill him before he touches you. Seraphine stared at him, trembling. Kael stepped closer. Now tell me something, he whispered. The night I found you, why did your blood glow? Her breath died. He had seen it. He had seen her blood ignite when she stumbled. Her greatest secret. Her mother's warning. She backed away instinctively, but Kael followed her with slow, terrifying precision. Little one, he murmured. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. He reached her, trapped her between him and the stone wall. His hands braced on either side of her head, his body inches from hers, his breath hot on her lips. But if you lie to me again, he whispered, voice low and sinful, I won't let you run next time. Her pulse exploded. Why? She breathed. Kael's lips almost touched hers. Because I'm done pretending I don't want you. Seraphine's lungs tightened as Kael hovered inches from her, trapping her between the cold stone wall and the burning heat of his body. His hands rested on either side of her head, but he wasn't touching her. Not yet. That was the part that made her dizzy. That unbearable distance. That thin line he refused to cross unless she let him. He leaned in closer, so close her breath tangled with his. Why are you shaking? He asked quietly. Because you're too close, she whispered, his mouth curved in a slow, dangerous smile. Then tell me to move. She clenched her jaw. She couldn't. She didn't want to. Kael's golden eyes darkened with understanding. That's what I thought, he murmured. Her heart pounded so loudly she almost didn't hear the faint echo of footsteps in the corridor. Almost. Kael heard it instantly. His head snapped toward the door with a low growl vibrating through his chest. Instinctive, protective, lethal. He stepped in front of Seraphine without thinking, shielding her with his body. A knock followed. Alpha. It was Rovan, the same soldier Kael had snapped at earlier. Forgive me, but we found something in the ruins. Something you should see. Kael didn't open the door, didn't step away from Seraphine. Speak. Rovan hesitated. Magic residue, not wolf-made. Something older. Seraphine's blood iced. Her mother's magic? Valak's? Kael's jaw tightened. Where? In the lower courtyard, near the old well. Kael looked at Seraphine slowly. She swallowed. Stay here, he said. She reached out impulsively, catching his wrist. He stilled. Be careful, she whispered. Something flickered in his eyes. Heat, surprise, a softness he didn't show anyone else. Then he left. The moment the door closed, Seraphine let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her fingers tingled where they'd touched him. She hated this feeling. Hated how much she cared that he might walk into danger. You shouldn't care. Her mind screamed it, but her heart ignored it. She paced the room until she noticed something on Kael's table. A black leather notebook. Symbols carved into the cover. The inside filled with messy notes, blood smudges, half-drawn diagrams. And at the top of one page, Night Hallow heir, believed extinct. Her breath caught. Beneath it, a note in Kael's handwriting. If she lives, Valak will come for her first. Seraphine's heart clenched painfully. He wasn't hunting her. He was protecting her. Why? The door slammed open. Seraphine spun, dagger in hand. But it wasn't Kael. A soldier stumbled in, pale and trembling. "My lady?" he gasped. "You must hide, now." "Why? What happened?" "Shadow wolves breached the South Hall. They're looking for—" A blast of black energy tore through the corridor behind him. The soldier screamed as he was thrown backward, crashing against the far wall. Shadows crawled across the floor like living smoke. The torches flickered and died. Seraphine stumbled back, her pulse exploding. From the darkness stepped a figure, tall, gaunt, eyes glowing an unnatural cold white. Valak Shadeborn, her mother's murderer, her father's betrayer. The architect of Night Hallow's fall. His voice slithered through the room. "My little flame," Valak said, smiling cruelly. "I knew you survived." Seraphine's blood froze. How did you find me?" she breathed. Valak stepped forward, and every shadow in the room bent toward him. "Oh, child, I've always known where you were." His smile widened. "You shine too brightly. Fire cannot hide in the dark." Seraphine lifted her dagger, hands shaking. Valak laughed softly. "You think I came for him?" he said. "For the Alpha?" His eyes burned into hers. "No, Seraphine, I came for you." She backed away. Valak lifted his hand, and a tendril of shadow wrapped around her ankle like ice. "Don't run," he whispered. "Your mother ran too. Look where that got her." Something in Seraphine snapped. Her eyes widened with pure, white-hot rage. Flames burst from her palms. They collided with Valak's shadows in a blinding flash of heat. The room exploded with light and dark. Seraphine stumbled, gasping, as Valak's shadow magic coiled tighter, draining her strength. "You don't know how to use your gift." Valak purred. "You're a spark without a blaze." Seraphine screamed as shadows dragged her toward him. Suddenly, the door tore off its hinges. Kael stood in the doorway, chest rising and falling with fury, eyes glowing bright gold. He looked like a god of war. "No!" he snarled, voice shaking the walls. "Don't touch her!" Valak's smile thinned. "Ah, the Alpha King!" Kael didn't waste a second. He lunged. The impact shook the room, stone cracking under their weight. Kael's claws ripped across Valak's chest, shadows shrieking as they recoiled. Valak blasted him with dark energy, throwing him across the chamber. "Kael!" Seraphine screamed. She tried to run to him, but the shadows tightened around her ankle, yanking her to the floor. Kael roared, shifting halfway into his wolf form, fangs lengthening, eyes blazing, before slamming Valak into the wall. "You won't take her," Kael growled through gritted teeth. "I will kill you first." Valak laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You can try." He slammed his palm into Kael's chest, sending a burst of black energy through him. Kael choked, body arching in pain. Seraphine's eyes burned with tears. "Stop!" she screamed. Valak didn't. Kael crashed to his knees, clutching his ribs. "Kael!" Her voice broke, He forced his eyes open, meeting hers. "Don't! Let him take you!" Kael gasped, her heart shattered. Valak yanked her toward him with a flick of his fingers. "You belong to me," he hissed. "Your blood is mine." Seraphine's throat closed. "No," she whispered. "I belong to no one." A surge of fire exploded from her chest, twice as strong as before, blasting Valak backward and snapping the shadow hold around her ankle. Valak staggered, stunned. Kael's eyes widened. For the first time, he saw the truth. Seraphine wasn't human. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't weak. She was something ancient, something powerful, something forbidden. White flames danced across her skin as she rose slowly to her feet, and Kael whispered, not in fear, but in awe. "Seraphine." White flames flickered across Seraphine's skin like living light. They curled around her fingers, pulsed along her arms, and illuminated her face with a glow so fierce Valak stumbled back, momentarily blinded. Kael slowly pushed himself to his feet, chest heaving, blood trickling from his mouth. His golden eyes widened, not with fear, but with a kind of stunned, reverent fascination. "You," he whispered, breathless. "You're the Flameborn." Seraphine didn't hear him. All she saw was Valak. All she felt was the rage burning her down to the bone. "You killed my mother," she whispered, flames intensifying. "You destroyed my kingdom." "You stole everything," Valak sneered, brushing ash off his cloak. "I freed you. I shaped you. I made you what you are." "You made me an orphan." Shadow tendrils exploded from Valak's hands. Seraphine unleashed flames. Heat and darkness collided with a violent crack, throwing debris across the room. Kael lunged at Valak from the side, claws extended, fury blazing in every movement. But Valak was faster than any wolf she had ever seen. He vanished into the shadows, reappearing behind Kael, and slammed a hand into his back. Kael roared in pain and dropped to one knee. "Kael!" Seraphine screamed. Valak smirked. "You care about him!" Seraphine's heart clenched. She didn't want him to know. She didn't want Kael to hear. Not now. Not like this. Valak's grin widened. "How sweet! A little wolf-shaped weakness." His voice dropped into a poisonous whisper. "I'll bleed him dry, before your eyes." Something inside Seraphine snapped. She screamed, not in fear, but in fury. Flames erupted from her in a blinding burst that shook the walls. The fire roared outward, white gold, so bright it turned the shadows to smoke. Valak shielded himself with a twisted arm of darkness, but even his shadows cracked under the force. "You're strong," Valak hissed. "Stronger than her, stronger than any Night Hallow. But you lack control." Seraphine's vision blurred, fire burning her veins. She stumbled, falling to her knees. Valak's smile returned. "And that is why I will win." He raised his hand. Shadows launched toward her, fast, deadly, aimed straight for her heart. Kael moved before he even thought. He threw himself in front of her. The shadows slammed into him. The impact sent Kael flying backward, crashing against a pillar and collapsing to the floor. His body convulsed as black tendrils crawled across his skin, poisoning him from the inside. Seraphine screamed so loudly the torches flickered. She crawled toward him, hands shaking violently. Kael, look at me!" His eyes flickered open, dimmer now, but still molten gold. "You need to run," he choked out. No, I won't leave you." "You have to," he growled weakly. "Valak wants your blood." "I don't care." "You should." His hand rose, trembling, and cupped her cheek. "Even poisoned, even bleeding, even dying." His touch was gentle. "Seraphine," he whispered. Please. Her heart shattered. She grabbed his wrist, pressing her face into his palm. I'm not leaving you, she whispered fiercely. I won't lose you too. Kael's breath caught. Something raw flashed in his eyes. Something vulnerable, something desperate, something real. Little flame, he breathed. If you stay, I might not be able to let you go. He wasn't talking about death anymore, not poison, not shadows. Her throat tightened. She leaned down, brushing her forehead against his. I don't want you to. Kael's lips parted, not for words, but because he was about to kiss her. But Valak's laughter cut through the moment like a blade. How touching, he mocked. Very dramatic. Now get out of my way. Seraphine stood, slowly, all the way upright. Her flames vanished. Her aura went still, not weak, focused. Valak paused, confused. Kael stared at her with wide eyes, struggling to rise. Seraphine, what are you doing? She didn't look at him. She stared at Valak like a storm given human form. You wanted my blood, she said quietly. Fine. Her eyes glowed white. Come take it. Valak's smile returned. He launched forward, shadows curling around his hands like claws. Seraphine didn't move. At the last second, Kael surged forward again despite the poison ripping through him. No! But Valak's shadow blade plunged, not into her pendant, the one her mother had given her. A deafening crack split the air as the pendant burst open, releasing a torrent of ancient magic. Valak screamed. Shadows recoiled violently, spiraling backward. His body was thrown across the room, slamming into stone. Kael shielded Seraphine with his body, even poisoned and half-conscious. The explosion of light faded slowly. Valak staggered to his knees, burned, coughing, furious. That, he choked. That was the flame sigil. How did you... It was meant to protect me from you, Seraphine said coldly. Valak's expression twisted. You ungrateful child, he hissed. Your mother should have let you die. Seraphine's flames ignited again. Kael managed to stand, slamming a hand against the wall for support. Seraphine, he rasped. Don't go near him. He's too... She didn't listen. She stepped forward, white fire spreading across her arms like wings. Her voice shook with fury and grief and something older than both. You want my blood? She whispered. Then burn for it. She unleashed a wave of fire. Valak barely escaped, shadows snapping around him like a panicked shield. He disappeared into the corridor, screaming curses. Seraphine collapsed to her knees, chest heaving. Kael staggered toward her, grabbing her shoulders. You idiot, he growled, voice rough with pain. You could have died. So could you. They stared at each other, breathing hard, eyes blazing with fear, anger, something dangerously close to desire. Kael cupped her face with both hands. You're not allowed to die, he whispered. Seraphine swallowed, voice trembling. Neither are you. He pressed his forehead to hers. Their breaths mingled, their lips hovered. Too close, too soft, too dangerous. Seraphine, Kael whispered, voice breaking. I need you to tell me the truth. She trembled. I can't. You have to. His thumb brushed her lip. Because I think the truth might kill me. Her heart pounded. He leaned closer. Who are you? He whispered. Her lips parted, but her answer was stolen by a distant horn blast. An alarm. Ironhold was under full attack. Kael's head whipped toward the sound, his golden eyes sharpening. They're here, he growled. Valak brought an army. He looked at her one last time. Stay behind me. And the war began. The alarm horns echoed through Ironhold like a storm tearing open the sky. Wolves shouted commands in the corridors. Armor clashed. Magic sparked. The fortress shook. Kael's entire body stiffened, every muscle ready for violence. "Seraphine," he growled, pulling her against him. "Stay behind me. Don't argue." She didn't, not because she obeyed, but because she could feel the danger rolling toward them like a tidal wave. The air grew colder. Shadows crawled under the door. Valak wasn't retreating. He was coming back stronger. Kael pressed a bloody hand to the wall, forcing his body upright, despite the poison burning through him. "You can barely stand," Seraphine whispered, grabbing his arm. Kael turned to her, and in that moment, for just a heartbeat, he wasn't the Alpha King. He was a man terrified of losing someone. "I'll stand," he said hoarsely, "as long as you're alive." Her breath trembled, then the door exploded, not opened, not pushed, blown off its hinges by a surge of black magic. Shadow wolves poured in, twisted creatures with bone masks and eyes like bleeding moons, snarling as they charged. Kael roared so loudly the air cracked. He shifted halfway, claws bursting from his hands, canine teeth lengthening, golden eyes glowing like fire. He grabbed Seraphine, pulled her behind him, and tore through the first wolf, ripping it apart with pure rage. "Don't touch her!" Kael snarled at the others, but more shadows spilled in. Too many, hundreds. Seraphine lifted her hands, white flames swirling, ready to attack. Kael caught her wrist. "No, save it," he growled. "Your fire is our last line. Don't waste it on their pawns." She swallowed hard. "Then what do I do?" "Stay close," Kael ordered, "and if anything gets past me, burn it." 2 wolves lunged at him. He ripped one down and snapped the neck of the other. But the shadows kept coming. Seraphine struck one with a burst of flame. It shrieked and dissolved. Kael shot her a sharp glance. "Good. Again." Her flames grew brighter with every strike. Valak wanted her blood for power, but he had never understood the full truth. Seraphine didn't hold fire. She was fire. Kael fought like a demon forged in war. Every movement was brutal efficiency, every strike a killing blow. But even he couldn't hold off an entire army alone. One shadow wolf slipped through. Seraphine screamed as it lunged. Kael spun, but he was too far. Seraphine exploded with light. A burst of white fire slammed into the wolf midair, incinerating it before it touched her. Kael froze, staring at her, chest heaving. "That power," he murmured. "You shouldn't be able to do that." She swallowed. "I didn't know I could." Their eyes locked, fear, awe, and something deeper passing between them. Then, a voice slithered from the smoke. "Well, well," Valik crooned, stepping through the ruined doorway. "The prodigy finally wakes." Seraphine stiffened. Kael growled, placing himself in front of her again. Valik smiled at Kael, smug and cold. "You're dying," he said. "The poison inside you? A nice blend of shadow and wolfbane? Your strength is fading." Kael's knees buckled for a moment. Just a moment. But Seraphine caught his arm. "Don't touch him," she snapped. Valak laughed softly. "How touching. The flame protects the wolf." He lifted his hand. Shadows rippled outward like black waves. "Let's see how long that lasts." Kael pushed Seraphine back. "Stay behind me." "You can't fight him alone," she shouted. "I can try." "And die!" Kael turned on her, eyes blazing, not in anger, but in fierce desperation. "If he kills me," he growled, "run! I won't leave you! Run, Seraphine!" Her heart shattered. Valak sneered. "Beautiful. Let's end the romance." Shadows shot toward Kael. Seraphine grabbed his hand. Kael jerked in shock as a surge of warmth burst through him. Not his strength, not his wolf. Her fire. Their powers fused for the first time, connecting like two magnets locked by fate. Kael inhaled sharply, eyes widening. Seraphine, what are you? Trust me, she whispered. He did, for the first time. Valak threw a spear of shadow straight at them. Seraphine stepped forward, Kael still gripping her hand. Their fused power erupted. White gold fire blasted outward, smashing into Valak's shadows and tearing them apart. The impact shook the entire fortress. Valak stumbled back, eyes wide. Impossible, he hissed. No Flameborn has ever merged with a wolf. Seraphine's voice was steady. Maybe I wasn't meant for wolves. She squeezed Kael's hand. Maybe I was meant for him. Kael sucked in a breath, not at the words, but at the undeniable truth in them. Valak snarled. I'll rip your souls apart! Shadows surged. Kael moved with her, perfectly in sync, their fused aura burning brighter. They fought like one creature, one breath, one heartbeat, one force. Kael's claws sliced through shadow beasts while Seraphine's flames obliterated anything that slipped through. They formed a circle of fire and fury, back to back, unstoppable. But Valak was relentless. He lunged for Seraphine. Kael roared and threw himself between them. Valak's blade slashed across Kael's side. Kael staggered, blood spilling. Kael! Seraphine screamed. Valak raised his hand to strike again, but Kael caught the shadow blade in his bloody grip and snarled, You don't touch! What's mine? Seraphine didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She unleashed everything. Her flames turned blinding white. The floor cracked. The walls shook. Valak was thrown back violently, smashing into a stone pillar. He collapsed, coughing black smoke. Seraphine rushed to Kael, catching him before he fell. Stay with me, she whispered, voice breaking. Kael pressed his forehead to hers, breath ragged, blood dripping down his ribs. I told you, he whispered weakly. If you stay, I won't be able to let you go. Her heart splintered. Then don't, she whispered. Kael's eyes softened, then went sharp. Seraphine, he choked out, staring over her shoulder. She turned. Valak stood again, barely, bleeding, cracked, but alive, and smiling. You think this is over? He rasped. You think your little bond can save you? He raised both hands, shadows coiled. Then burn with him. The world froze. Seraphine inhaled. Kael tightened his grip on her hand. Their powers surged, and the final clash began. The shadows twisted above Valak like a monstrous halo, writhing and pulsing, amplifying the dark magic crawling through his veins. His eyes shone a sickly white, his face contorted into something inhuman. This ends now! Valak screamed, unleashing a storm of shadow spikes that filled the entire room. Seraphine's heart lurched. She had no time to think. Kael pulled her against him, one arm around her waist, the other bracing them against the blast. Shadow rushed toward them like a tidal wave. Seraphine threw her hand forward, and Kael did the same. Fire and fury collided as one. White gold flame roared from Seraphine, mixing with Kael's raw alpha power. Their fused energy exploded outward in a blinding sphere of heat and light. The shadows slammed into it and broke. Valak screamed as the wave of fire bore into him, ripping through every lie, every spell, every twisted thing he had ever become. You cannot kill me! He shrieked, shadows trying to reform. Seraphine stepped forward, her voice shaking with grief, rage, and something far older. You killed my kingdom, she whispered. You killed my family. You tried to take everything from me. Her flames intensified. And now I end you. Kael's grip steadied her, strengthening her fire with his aura. Together, They unleashed one final blast. The flames tore through Valak's form, shredding the darkness apart. He staggered back, body unraveling like smoke in the wind. His eyes widened, truly afraid for the first time. No! 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 The fire consumed him. His scream ripped through the fortress, echoing down every hall until it dissolved into nothing. Silence fell. The shadows evaporated. The air cleared. The battle was over. Ironhold stood, scarred, cracked, but alive. Seraphine collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Kael dropped beside her, catching her before she hit the floor. "Easy," he breathed, pulling her into his lap. "Breathe, little flame. I've got you." She leaned against him, trembling. "It's over," she whispered. Kael cupped her face gently. "Because of you." His thumb brushed away a tear she didn't realize she'd shed. "You saved my kingdom," he whispered. "You saved me." She shook her head weakly. "You saved me too." Kael's hand slid to the back of her neck, tender, careful, grounding her. His forehead met hers, sweat and blood mixing, breaths ragged. "You scared me," he admitted softly. "You scared me first," she whispered back. He gave a small, breathless laugh, then winced. She reached to touch his wound, but he caught her wrist. "No," he murmured. "Not yet." "Kael, you're bleeding. I don't care," he growled, voice low, rough, intimate. "Not until I do this." He lifted her chin with 2 fingers and kissed her. Not like before, teasing, hovering, testing. This kiss was raw, fierce, burning with everything they'd survived and everything they couldn't deny anymore. Seraphine melted into him, fingers curling into his hair as he pulled her closer, deepening the kiss until the world around them disappeared. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her against him. Her body pressed into his, heat meeting heat, fire meeting wolf. When he finally broke the kiss, his breath shook. "Seraphine," he whispered, voice thick, "if you ever run from me again." She touched his lips lightly. "I'm not running anymore." His eyes softened, finally, fully. He leaned his forehead to hers. "You're mine," he murmured. "And I swear on the moon, I will spend the rest of my life proving I'm yours." Her heart slammed. "Kael," he gathered her into his arms and stood, despite the pain, despite the poison still lingering in his blood, because nothing would make him let go of her now. As he carried her through the wreckage, soldiers bowed with shocked respect. The moment they saw Seraphine's white flames flickering beneath her skin, whispers spread like wildfire. "The Flameborn. She saved us. The Alpha has chosen." Outside, dawn broke over Ironhold. The night of shadows had ended. Kael placed Seraphine on the balcony, overlooking the mountains, the sunrise painting the sky gold and red. She looked up at him, exhausted, beautiful, glowing with the remnants of ancient fire. "What now?" she whispered. Kael stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her against his chest. "Now," he murmured, lips brushing her neck. "You stay with me." Seraphine leaned back into him, feeling his warmth, his strength, his heartbeat against her spine. "And if I say no?" she teased softly. Kael growled, low, warning, possessive, but full of heat. "Then I hunt you," he whispered, "and I never fail." She smiled, breathless. "And if I say yes?" Kael turned her to face him, lifting her chin with a finger. "Then you are my queen," he whispered. "My fire." "My equal." "My fate?" Her eyes softened. "Yes," she breathed. Kael kissed her again, slow, deep, claiming her in the rising sun. Ironhold roared with approval below. For the first time in centuries, hope rose with the dawn. And in the arms of the Alpha King, Seraphine Valor, the last flame of her people, found not danger, but home.